What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to some Dungeon Defenders Awakened. Today we're going to take a look at how to fine-tune your defenses for the damage output that they use. Now, obviously some defenses like traps and auras get a huge quality of life benefit by having more defense health, yet some defenses just don't need health and are only going to be dependent on the range, rate, and power stats. Now, range, of course, does not affect your DPS. It will affect your amount of damage done if you can start hitting the enemy sooner. So the first thing you want to do is, without a doubt, find your happy spot in your range. Now, just the nature of talent points, of course, we left click to put them in. At 1 point, we can shift left click for 5 points. We can control left click for 100 points. Now, to take points out of that category, we can right-click for 1 point, shift right-click for 5 points, or shift right-click and remove 100 points out of that particular category. Now, looking at my gear and my setup, this is what I have by default on just my gear alone. So I'm at 202 Fortify, 577 Power, 213 Range, 234 Rate. Now, the very first thing we want to do is get to our happy spot with range. For me personally, on the Flame Burst Tower, which we're going to use as an example today, for me, the happy spot on range is 225 range. So I want to get my range up to 225, and I am just going to leave that alone right there at that stat. Now, when we take a look at our other stats, we have 318 points left to spend, and we can throw them into power and into defense rate. Now, the first thing we should do, let's just dump it all into rate and see where we're sitting. So now we're at 577 power, 552 rate, and if we take a look at our Flame Burst Tower, we see the DPS, or damage per second number, is 13.12. Now, what happens if we say remove, let's say 10 points, or let's just go 25 points out of our defense rate and put it into the defense power? Well, if we take a look now, we had a DPS increase. We're up to 13.16 damage per second, and we're getting that number a little bit higher. So let's keep tweaking that number and find our happy spot. So if we look now, let's take another, say, 10 points out of rate and put it on the power, and look, we're now at 13.17k, so we went up again in DPS. Well, let's take a slightly bigger jump. Let's say let's just go another, say, 50 points. We'll take 50 points out of our rate and throw it into power and see what happens. When we do this and take a look at that tower again, we dropped. We're at 13.15, so we're starting to find that sweet spot between power and rate and where we want to be. So we want to keep fine-tuning to get to the right number. So now we took too much out of rate. We've got to give it a little bit of rate back. We just put 50 points in. Let's say 25 of those points out of power and put them back in to rate. And now we take a look. We're at 13.18k, so we actually went up again. Well, let's continue to fine-tune and find the sweet spot. Let's take another 5 points out of power and put them into rate. And we're still at 13.18k. Now, this tells me that since I just moved points over and we had no effective change, that we're getting pretty darn close to the sweet spot of where we want this tower to be. So let's take it one step further. Let's go 5 more points out of power. We'll put it into rate again and take another look. We're still showing 13.18k. Now, this is obviously rounding off to the 1/100th, but for me personally, that's fair enough, and it tells me that I'm in a sweet spot now, because if I take any more points out of power, let's say we take another 10 out and put them into rate, and then take a look, well, we just went down. We're down to 13.17 now. Now, you can get this all the way down to the individual point if you want, but I know now that my sweet spot is going to be right about here with the 13.18 thousand. And if I take a look at my stat attributes, I am now at 627 power, 502 rate, giving us roughly like a 6 to 5 power to rate ratio on the Flame Burst Tower. Now every tower is going to scale a little differently. You're going to want to play with these numbers with every one of your defenses to get them dialed in. And as I mentioned, don't forget the quality of life stuff. If you're dialing in traps or auras, make sure you throw some Fortify on there, as that quality of life beats all other things. So if you can improve your fun factor, that is the correct way to play, not looking at the DPS number at all. So I feel like I found a pretty happy mix with my Flame Burst Tower. I'm going to leave it right here. 627 power, 502 rate. I know a lot of folks are not quite at these numbers yet. Some folks are way past these numbers. The important thing to note is this exact strategy of moving points back and forth to look at the individual damage output is effective at all levels. So say you only had 20 points to spend, you can do the same thing with 20 points, moving just 1 point back and forth to find that sweet spot of what you're looking for your tower's output of damage per second. So hopefully this helps everyone understand a little bit about how to fine-tune their defenses for the purposes that they want. So the same can be said about lots of tower defense games. Find the range that you're happy with, see if you need any more health, and then get the correct balance of power versus rate. So thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to click that like button and please subscribe to the channel. And I will be back soon with some more Dungeon Defenders in all its forms. Thanks again. I'll see you next time around. Take it easy.